Greetings, travelers. It's November 16th, 2018, and this is the Greetings From podcast, just a few days late this week. I am joined by my two very good friends as always, except I have a name and it's Rebecca Faye, but I'm still joined by my two very good friends as always. First is a skeleton with very high standards. It's Miss Olivia Quinn.
Nah. Other Undertale reference.
I had to find one. I've never played Undertale, so this was a really fun challenge to figure out, like, what's a line that somebody might recognize.
Oh my god, what are you doing with your life if you haven't played Undertale?
I'm in the same boat.
God, both of you! What the fuck?
I know. So when you're talking about DeltaRune with all these hidden, like, Easter egg secrets, I'll be like, what?
God.
Like,
I challenge you to convince us to play Undertale, because to me, it's just people that liked Homestuck, and I can't stand Homestuck either, so...
I think I have two versions of
I also just
Undertale.
Alienated a lot of our fan base. I apologize. Sorry, haters. I'm also joined by Groundhog Day for our 60-second hero. It's Tyler Smith.
Yes, the sword. 60 minutes to win it or not. We'll see. Anyway.
We'll see. It's a mystery. So, dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to talk about Detective Pikachu, which is a real movie. Somehow.
I'm for the fur. I like the fur. Where do you guys fall on this? I'm pro fur. Pro Pikachu fur. I want to touch it.
Well, you know. I think it's just this dysphoria in general, because we all grew up with Pokemon from the anime and in game, and there are very few hairy Pokemon. Like, Taurus comes to mind, Electabuzz, Arcanine, Ponyta.
Yeah, Growlithe is what I was thinking. And now Pikachu gets to be a hairy boy, and we get to touch him.
Well, it's like, okay, so we knew that Pikachu was hairy, though, too, because there were different versions of Pikachu that had, like, longer hair and stuff. I'm thinking of, like, Surfer Pikachu. But, you know, it was always implied that they had short hair, so...
I don't know. The alternative is just, like, flesh. So I feel like that's worse.
Okay, can we talk about the Jigglypuff, though? Because that's the thing I think that gets me the most. Where I'm like, I want that Jigglypuff to be a fleshy ball. It
reminds me of...
No, it's like Kirby, but hairy.
Well, I was going to say Kirby, but I was also going to say it was like a... Oh my god, what were those nightmare creations back from the 90s that recorded your voice? And
Furby?
Furbies. It reminds me of Furby.
It's that little like.
I don't know
hair.
why.
Like, I just don't like it. I like the Pikachu because it's like, oh, that's an animal, but it looks like they chopped off like a grown person's like little like front hair and just stuck it to a ball of hair, and I just like that a lot.
I love all these people dunking on Jigglypuff when the true abomination is Mr. Mime.
I like it. I like how this guy's a fucking creep, and he deserves to look like that.
It's terrifying. Oh my god. Like, I never thought about Mr. Mime that way, and then I saw him like a strange, fleshy ball, and it's like, oh god.
Did any of us actually think this movie was going to get made? Because I really did not think this was going to...
No.
Like, I know Ryan Reynolds was attached, and like, that's cool. I'm glad that he's like going to be voicing Pikachu, but I really didn't think they were going to make it, and it actually looks pretty okay. Like, I'm going to see this movie and probably think it's okay. That's where I fall on this so far.
I kept seeing people talk about how much they really wish that Detective Pikachu was Danny DeVito.
Oh my god!
And I think I kind of wanted that too.
I want that too. Yeah. I love Ryan Reynolds. Don't get me wrong. Like, I will jump on him any day if he, decides to be bisexual. But I would love Danny DeVito. Like, I just, growing up, Matilda was my shit. And so I just have a special place in my heart for Danny DeVito. Plus, I mean, he's gone on to do a bunch of other things since then. He's also like a strong political advocate and activist. But like, yeah, Danny DeVito would be great.
If he's going to be Frank from It's Always Sunny. But
I mean, yeah, that's who I want to see in
like
here
a trash
too.
Boy who plays.
But he has to be a PG-13 version of Frank, which I guess is technically Always Sunny in Philadelphia. But like, Always Sunny in Philadelphia gets away with a lot of stuff for television, so that you wouldn't normally see.
I just want Detective Pikachu to have like seen some shit, like his family was killed and now he has like a drinking problem,
well, who knows,
and it's
though?
Just like,
I don't even know.
Pokemon crimes.
Like, the movie's just gonna revolve around, I don't even know his name, but it's gonna revolve about the kid who like lost his dad or whatever, and Detective Pikachu is gonna help him find him. But I don't understand why Detective Pikachu is helping him find his father.
Okay, but Detective Pikachu if Detective Pikachu was Max Payne.
Oh shit.
Yeah, that's what
shit.
you really want.
That's actually what I want.
Yes.
Give Quantic Dream Detective Pikachu. That's what I need, actually.
Oh my god.
The Detective Pikachu, Max Payne / God, what is the writer one? Oh no.
The writer one?
Oh, Alan Wake.
Yeah, I want the crossover
Alan
between
Wake.
all three.
Oh yeah.
Hard-boiled
Detroit become
Detective
Pikachu.
Yes. Yes. That's actually what I need. Okay, will Pokemon get eaten in this? Like, will we watch a Pokemon die?
Probably.
In this movie?
So the design, like how the aesthetic of this movie was made by R.J. Palmer, and he was the guy who on the internet did like the realistic Pokemon renditions on DeviantArt. I think he was also popular for like Pokemon mashups because there was that one website, or there is that one website that I forget the name of now, where you can like pick 2 different Pokemon and it would like splice them together. And so he made like, those weird versions of Pokemon too. But so he like was the runner-up or got hired on to design all these Pokemon. And so like I feel like it is going to be a little brutal. We do know like there's a little hint thing. There's going to be like a Pokemon fighting arena, like illegal fighting arena between like Pikachu and Charizard that we can kind of see through the trailer. So who knows? Will Pikachu die? Well, who is to say? Will it be Pokemon the movie 2001 all over again? Who knows?
Pikachu dies so that the rest of us may live.
Yeah.
The Bulbasaurs were very cute. That's
They
my
were.
highlight
Yes.
of that movie is watching the Bulbasaurs walking a line. Like,
They're
okay,
traveling
it's all
in a
gonna be all right.
herd.
Speaking of Pikachu's, actually, it's got a letter here, and what does it say? Welcome to Olivia's Amiibo shelf. I have a new Amiibo to talk about today. Just to kind of set this up, I had a family incident recently, so I was forced to travel across the country, or across the state, not the country, and I found myself in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and we stopped there for a minute. Yeah, from the office. We were like, oh, this is going to be, a great time. We're going to stop in Scranton, relive our office like dreams. It'll be great. The Scranton, Pennsylvania is not a fun place to be. Like, I don't mean to be mean to Scranton people. Your town is lovely or whatever, but you had the worst pizza I've ever had in my life. And that was not fun. But on the other side, we did stop at a GameStop, and guess what they had? A Robin Amiibo from Super Smash Brothers. And also,
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They had like 5 of them. So
Oh,
if you're
wow.
hearing
Wait,
this,
did you say you were at a gas station?
I'm sorry, a GameStop, if I misspoke there. We stopped at a GameSpot Premium. I don't know why it was named GameSpot Premium in the Google Maps listing. I don't know if they rank GameStops in the wildlands of Pennsylvania. But yeah, I have a Robin Amiibo now. He looks very cool. It's the He version. He has a good book. And I'm never going to use him because who uses Robin in Smash? Y'all are crazy if you think that's what I'm going to do. So,
Well, it's not really about that, is it? It's about the aesthetic.
okay.
Yeah.
How many Amiibos, have you actually counted them the other day? How many Amiibos do you think I have?
20.
Much more than that.
I was going to say
30?
32.
Much more than that.
Much more than 30?
50?
More than that.
What?
I have
Olivia.
66 Amiibos.
What?
What even are they of? I feel like
But
in your
they're-
pictures, there's only like 25 at a
Yeah.
time.
There's no way you have 66 Amiibos
I
on your
counted
Amiibo
them.
shelf.
I counted them yesterday.
Did you count them like 3
Oh.
times? Like one,
No,
3
I didn't.
times?
I didn't. I had the numbers were verified.
Did they
by an
multiply?
outside auditor,
Olivia, are they
an Amiibo
breeding?
auditor? But yeah. So, and there's only like 160 Amiibos in total. So we're getting
Yeah,
close.
Wow.
You're like halfway to having the whole Smash roster.
Dang, girl.
Yeah, and you know what? Fucking the Smash Apocalypse is coming. They're all gonna get released.
They are.
Again.
Yeah, they are.
So hey, who knows? This could be it. I could finally finish Smash Bros. That's my like ultimate dream. I didn't think it was gonna happen. So hopefully they actually bring out all of the Smash Amiibos again, so I can live my life, my best life.
If they do, I think, if I was going to buy another Amiibo, it would be Kirby because he's the canonically only survivor in Smash Bros. So
Yeah, who would have thought
Rip
that Kirby
everyone
was
else.
going to be the one true
I
hero
can't
we all
believe that.
deserve?
And I'm kind of happy because Kirby was definitely like, well, I think he's a lot of people's favorite, but like for me, especially playing Smash Brothers when it first was on the Nintendo 64, he was all I fucking played. So like it just warms my heart knowing that
Yeah.
he was the good boy who survived a tragedy.
Well, and it makes me happy because the creator
Are we
of
getting
Smash
a Smash
is-
Bros movie?
Oh man,
Maybe.
I hope they're gonna make
God,
a Mario
that trailer
movie
they should.
and I think potentially Legend of Zelda TV show. So we'll get the greater Nintendo universe on TV. Really, Detective Pikachu is the Iron Man of the Pokemon universe.
Well, I mean that's debatable. We'll see if Sonic, the rumors of Sonic the movie, we'll see if that is also an Iron Man-esque film. We'll see.
I don't. What is this?
It would be so.
Movie gonna be
I mean, it would be
about?
so easy though. Like, just be like, oh, this is, I don't know, Sonic's Kingdom or something stupid with the emerald crystals, and then oh, here's Dr. Eggman, and he steals the crystals. Okay, well we have to go get it.
See,
I
I've
don't
heard
know.
like someone's pitched that like it's like Sonic, but in our world, like Eggman and Sonic get
Oh
like
no.
sucked into.
Is Eggman
Yeah.
fucking in charge of a company, like a Fortune 100 company, like
Sonic's
Amazon?
gonna vape.
I love like
Oh my
CEO
God.
Sonic.
Oy.
How does Big the Cat fit into this high lore?
That's the real
God, who
question.
knows?
Big
Yeah.
the Cat's the only one that matters in the grand scheme of things.
Oh, it just makes me think of, remember a couple years ago when they were really excited because they were going to try to make an Uncharted movie and they casted Mark Wahlberg as Nathan Drake, and it
Why?
was like, that's a choice.
Didn't Nathan
Obviously the-
Fillion come out and was like, yeah, I'm Nathan Drake, and like he did like his little 13-minute
Oh,
movie?
he did but they're doing, so they are doing an Uncharted movie, but it's young Nathan Drake, and I'm pretty
Oh.
sure that it's Tom Holland. So Spider-Man
Oh,
is going to
seriously?
play young Nathan Drake. Yeah, I don't
mean,
know
I'm
if
up
they're
for
doing
Tom
like
Holland, but
Uncharted 3
I just can't see this.
storyline. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do y'all have a favorite like movie to video game or video game to movie adaptation? Because I watched Doom recently, and it's not that. That is not my favorite one. I don't know why I watched Doom. 'Cause I'm a broken person.
No, I don't think I have a favorite movie to video game. Maybe like Prince of Persia. Like I vaguely
seen that.
remember being that decent, but
Jake
like,
Gyllenhaal though,
well, I mean, okay, listen, Jake Gyllenhaal, sweet on the eyes. So
right? But playing like a sort of, I don't know, Aladdin character that seems a little racist.
I know. Like I said, that came out forever ago, so I'm pretty sure it's not a good movie. I don't think there's any, like, even Laura Croft, like,
Yeah.
Those movies are bad.
No,
Yeah,
right.
I don't know if there
Like,
ever was
I
a
like
good one.
Angelina Jolie to a degree, but like, I don't think there's been any successful movie or video game to movie that has been done.
I would argue that the Resident Evil movies have been very profitable. I would not say
Okay,
that
you know
they're
what? You know what? Resident Evil, hands down, the first one. I don't know about the rest of them, but like, you know, the first one for sure, I definitely loved. I think that is
There's
the
that
best.
scene where the guy gets cut into cubes by the lasers.
Oh.
It's a good
Yeah,
movie.
that was amazing. Hey, did you guys see Slender Man? Because that's like another horror movie that I didn't see because I'm pretty
no.
sure it's
No,
awful.
I didn't. I skipped that.
But hey, Slender Man made it to the movies, so it's in Hollywood now.
I will say the one that is watchable, maybe not good, but is definitely watchable, is the Silent Hill movie, which has really nothing to do with Silent Hill, except it just kind of uses some of the assets sort of vaguely. That's definitely a movie that you could watch. The first one, not the other ones.
There's
I
a
don't
part where a
think
little girl
I've
skips around in a blood rain,
seen it.
right? In that
Yes.
movie? Okay.
They did like a really weird religious cult bent on Silent Hill, which was kind of unexpected and jarring, but I mean, sure, whatever.
I have this bad list of movies that I make my friends watch down here, and I just like subject them to it, and I'm gonna add Silent Hill to that list, and on all the Resident Evil movies, I'm gonna make them watch those because I want to share that pain with my friends.
We just need like a bad video game movie watch list, but the problem is that it's all of them. So how do you win?
This is like
We can just
there's another
kinda-
podcast here.
Yeah,
about
we
watching
can totally
bad
make another
video games.
podcast separate. It's called our hot takes, and we'll just rate them 1 through 10 or however many there are.
Oh my god, Tyler, we have to delete this. We can't have this be on the ranking of video game movies. It's actually
Listen,
a pretty good idea.
No, I don't know.
Well, Olivia, it's time for you to try to convince Tyler and I to buy Undertale by
Okay.
telling us about DeltaRune.
I mean,
So
I
first
already
I have
own
to-
it, but
You should play Undertale.
play it.
You
I should play it.
Undertale.
I'm waiting to.
All right, I guess I'm just going to start from the beginning then. Undertale, it's a game. There's moral choices involved in it. It's like a really cute, it looks like a JRPG, but in reality it's like a bullet hell game where you're like dodging bullets. You're like dodging enemy attacks, and like every enemy has a kind of a random attack, and they're all like thematically similar. I didn't think I have to explain Undertale because I thought everyone in the world had kind of already made their decisions to play this game. It's by Toby Fox, who was also involved in Homestuck. You know, it has that baggage that comes with it.
That's why. That's the problem. That's the thing that's been holding me back this whole time. I can't do it with the Homestuck.
I recently tried to understand Homestuck because I liked the previous comic that got put out by that guy, like the MS Paint Adventures thing. Oh,
and yeah.
I watched like an hour-long video about like understanding Homestuck, and I still don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I was on Tumblr for many, many years, and I avoided that entire like fandom because I was like, ugh. I don't even know how to. I think I even at one point tried to search for Homestuck, and like because I wanted to fucking get into it to see what the fuck everyone is all about, and I couldn't even figure out how to read about it, and it was all very vague and confusing, and I was like, I'm gonna pass.
So similar to Homestuck, I think that Undertale is like a really rabid fan base that maybe will push some people away from the like text itself. But I think that you both should get Undertale a shot. It's kind of hard to talk about DeltaRune, which is an anagram of Undertale, without kind of spoiling some stuff in Undertale and DeltaRune. So I just want to say right now, I'm going to be talking about spoilers. If you don't want to hear that, you should probably like pause the game, play DeltaRune. It's like pause our podcast and play DeltaRune. It's like a 3-hour long experience. So you were warned. So the ending of Undertale, kind of like the good ending of Undertale, kind of sets us up in this point where, you know, you learn about the history of these characters. There's like a whole backstory that involves like a previous human falling into the monster realm, their soul getting trapped in a flower, or their soul getting kind of like living in another being and like causing it to either do murders or do good things. And DeltaRune is like an alternate universe retelling of that story in a really strange way. So, you know, it's this is episode 1 of DeltaRune. So it wasn't originally announced like an episodic thing, but all we have is episode 1 right now. And it really, you don't need to know anything about Undertale to play it, but you won't get all like the in jokes and references because like everything in that game is like, oh, here's the character you saw in Undertale in a totally different context. And like, here's a callback to Undertale that you wouldn't really get unless you'd played it. So, you know, Undertale is like you're kind of walking around, you get into combat with an enemy, and then it like kind of changes the whole dynamic. It goes into like that bullet hell mode. DeltaRune is similar to this, but instead of having one character, you actually get multiple characters that you get to play as, and they all have different abilities. So it's actually more of like a JRPG in that aspect. So it's like you're controlling multiple characters. You're still kind of like trying to make decisions about whether to kill or save people, but they do some really interesting stuff. Like one of your characters will always attack. And so instead of like actually trying to attack with your characters, you're trying to warn the enemies to be like, hey, look out, this person's going to kill you. And if you don't do that, they'll get killed by your like compatriot, which is kind of a funny idea, I think, to like have you kind of working against your teammate who wants to murder people and you're trying to save the enemies themselves.
So I have a question just on that note. Like, so one thing that I know about Undertale is that it's very like playing it through the different endings and stuff. The game remembers the things that you did and will always kind of comment sort of at a meta level about the decisions that you're making and like the previous choices that you made in other playthroughs. Do you feel like that sentiment exists in DeltaRune in the same way? Like the way that you're talking about having to say like, oh, hey, this guy's going to murder you, just FYI, as being part of the gameplay. Like, do you feel like it has that meta level in the way that it presents itself?
So with DeltaRune, we know there's only one ending for episode 1. And, like, the game makes a point of saying, like, your choices don't matter in this. Like, apparently, even if you do... I did the, like, peaceful run, but even if you did, like, the genocide run where you killed everyone, it would still have, like, the same ending in it. So, yeah, and I think it's going to be expanded upon because, like, at the ending of DeltaRune, you actually, like, are talking to a bunch of random characters. They're like, come back tomorrow and we'll do this thing together. Or, like, hey, you're going to meet this character from Undertale tomorrow. So I wonder how the choices in episode 1, because there are a couple of them, how they're going to carry over. And there are like secrets, like you can bring items over and things like that. I think here's the thing about Undertale that I think I really liked was all of the Easter eggs and the way you can actually like hack the game itself to get extra information. And I'm going to go on a tangent here because this is why I think Undertale is cool. And I don't think it's been covered in many other places. So in Undertale, you can edit the game files to get access to other rooms that aren't normally accessible. and that actually has like another story in it where it talks about this character called like W.D. Gaster, which is like a evil scientist that was around before the events of Undertale. And he has like a theme music that plays, and like there's a random event that can happen in Undertale. There's like a random stat that's hidden called like your fun value, and like you don't control it. It's randomly determined by like the start of the game. And like as you're playing through Undertale, you can actually run into random characters that are like generated based on your fun value. So it's like, oh, if you have a fun value of X, between X and X, you'll get this character. So a bunch of people in the community have actually like put together all of these like random clues from the random characters you run into, and they look like dead versions. Like they're like a grayed out version of other characters in the game, and they're all giving these like really cryptic, creepy messages. Like one of them talks about like, oh, you would have been friends with Susie, and in DeltaRune we actually get to meet we learn who Susie is.
Oh,
yeah, and there's a bunch of like, there's like that sound cue that plays when you meet W.D. Gaster in the original game, which can only be accessed by like certain fun values. And we don't even know if that's actually who this is. It's just like, okay, we think that that's who this character is because based on game files and what it's referring to the sprite in the game, that plays in DeltaRune when you like hit a certain like spot in the game. So I'm excited to see how this kind of like weird, hidden character that you couldn't even find in normal gameplay in Undertale is going to be explored in DeltaRune, because I love that shit where it's like, okay, a bunch of people have to come together to like put together all these disparate hidden clues to like get this other backstory. And now we're going to get some of that payoff here. So that's the real reason why I want to see what's going to happen, because like, it's cutesy, it's fun. I like the message that it has of like friendship and not murdering people. But like the meta narrative is what I'm most interested in. So
if you're playing the game, is there like an in-game prompt or like a tale? Like my question would be, how would you know to edit the game files or to go into the game files, like you had said, to find these additional runes or characters to interact with? Did you just have to find it on the internet, or was it like...
I personally haven't edited the rooms, but I've just watched videos and other like I've read the wiki about like, hey, here's the hidden stuff in Undertale. And like that game, like one other aspect of the meta narrative is like in Undertale, if let's just say you reloaded a save, like at the beginning of the game, you have the option to either before you really understand how to spare, like it's a boss fight, and I didn't really understand that you could like not kill this character. And so I was like, oh fuck, I killed this character, I shouldn't have done that. I went to reload it, and then under the game recognizes that you are reloading, and it says, oh, you think you're a good person because you're like changing the past. It's like, oh no, I also have this power and I know what you're doing. So I think it already is kind of like has that little like wink and nod of like, hey, we know that you're fucking with save files. And like
got it.
In Undertale, the original game, there is if you go like full genocide, like that's like the idea of if you kill every character that you run into, you'll actually get this super bad ending. And I'm just going to talk about it now because I think it makes it way more interesting. That spirit that I talked about at the beginning, its name is like Chara. You don't really have a great name for it. That's the default name, but it's actually whatever name you put in. So let's just say, I put in like, hi, my name's Olivia. And then throughout the game, you're getting little prompts that say like Olivia is like invigorated with, spirit or whatever. At the end of the game, it's shown that the character you're playing as isn't named Olivia. They're named Fritz. And the person who came before you is your name. That's the name that you put in. They're like another human that died. And then like, if you go full genocide, it's actually revealed that the spirit of that original human was the one in control of events, and now it's going to murder everyone because it's been waiting for the time to strike.
Oh.
Yeah, and it has this whole like creepypasta ending kind of thing. And the game remembers that. So if you're like, oh fuck, I fucked up, I want to restart, even if you get the best possible ending, it still has a reference to that you killed everyone and it knows. So in this game, you're actually playing this is my theory here, but at the end of this game, there is a reference to that ending. And I think we're playing as that evil spirit in an alternate universe. That's my theory on what's happening here.
Oh.
So it's considered like an alternate timeline, not a prequel.
Yeah, it's a little unclear, but from what I've read, I think there are some official statements out there, but I think it is an alternate timeline because it's the same characters, but they're all in different contexts. And like there's a little song that plays at the end of like the first episode that talks about like, oh, you're seeing things that you don't exactly recognize in different contexts, and it just talks about how like everything's all kind of jumbled up. And it's almost like there is a meta narrative about like, hey, the events that took place in this game maybe weren't 100% real. Like maybe it was your imagination. So I don't know. I would really be interested to hear you guys talk about the ending because it goes some dark places that you don't really expect. But But there is a really good payoff for finishing this first episode.
Well, tell me, one more question from me. Tell me, is there a dog that you can pet?
You know,
The Tyler Smith petting of dog scale.
Okay, then it's
2018.
already like, Undertale is so much better already because there's a dog that you can
so
pet.
do you know the first game, like the long dog?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Okay. All right. So the enemy, like the main enemy that you're fighting, like the villain in this game, is a dog.
Oh, okay.
You cannot pet him.
Oh,
No.
okay.
As far as I
well,
know.
wait. So then, does that mean if I'm gonna go on, does the dog die? And I say DeltaRune, is it gonna tell me that the dog dies?
I don't think the dog dies. I think you're safe. I think you get to make the choice, Tyler. Are you going to be the one who kills the dog?
God damn
Are
it,
you that
Olivia.
person?
No, of course not.
Tyler?
I'm gonna fucking run away. So that's okay. So I definitely have to play DeltaRune then, so you say that it kind of nods to Undertale, though. I mean, having played Undertale, do you think someone who has not played Undertale will miss things? I'm assuming.
I think that I think you're going to miss a lot of the deeper story if you don't play Undertale. I think that I would recommend playing Undertale because this is almost like a coda to it. So,
That makes sense.
I mean, I would assume the same thing. I mean, it's the same creator. If I was Toby, I would totally be like, yeah, why haven't you played my game, my first game, dummy? But whatever.
there is a really funny thing, like the EULA on the game when you're installing it. It says like you accept everything that will happen from now on. That's just all it says.
Oh.
Yeah, and like the game, it is a little strange because when you're installing it, it doesn't say like Undertale. It says like survey program or something like that, and you have to create a little character and like name it and give your own name, but you don't ever use that information as far as we're aware. And
Interesting.
I do wonder how Toby's gonna release additional episodes because like it wasn't from Steam, it's from a website. So
So it's not even on Steam?
No, you have to go to like DeltaRune.com to get it.
Oh, well, good for him because he should get all the money.
Well, it's free.
Well, no, it's
So-
free. That's right. I totally forgot.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm
we'll
really
find
interested
out.
to see how, we get additional episodes or what the, like content plan is for this. Because it's a lot of game. Like, there's a lot of work that went into this. There's like, the music is amazing. All of the graphics are like, all of the little sprites are very funny. And the game does evolve the gameplay in Undertale 1, like significantly. Like, there are a lot of like serious changes that are made that I think are for the better and make it a more interesting game. So I'm interested to see how additional stuff will be released.
I definitely like hearing you talk about it because it gives me a little bit of a different perspective because I feel like I'm coming from a similar angle that Tyler is, where it was like Tumblr was just like Peppers and Sands, blah, and then that was it. You know what I mean? And so it was easy to be like, why would I play this game? So I like to hear that it's kind of jokey and it's maybe a little bit smarter than it gives off. You know what I mean? I'm gonna out myself a little here. I got a similar vibe as you were talking to Five Nights at Freddy's, which I hate those games, but I love the lore. So I love sitting and reading like the wiki and all of the secrets that the game has and all the like unlockable stuff that teaches you about like what actually happened and whatever. That has been that's what made those games enjoyable to me, I guess. And it's interesting that this kind of is coming from a similar perspective. Yeah, but it sounds more robust.
I feel a
was
little
gonna
gross
say.
because I know like the YouTube like map path thing is a little played out at this point, but I did watch a lot of videos about like, hey, what's going on with WD Gaster? Like, what's the story of Undertale? So I would recommend that you guys maybe give one of those a shot. Like, it's a 5-minute thing to like get some like context, and then from there, if that seems interesting, like playing through the game, I think this conversation probably won't affect your enjoyment of the writing, which I think is pretty funny. So.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that it's very funny. I've heard a bunch of people, like devs, I mean, critically acclaim it and just like, oh my god, I can't believe this is a thing. It's pretty genius writing. On the level of like Scott Benson and Night in the Woods, kind of
totally.
Of
No,
level,
I think the like the meta narratives and the jokes that it plays and like the, I don't really know if there's a great term for this, but like when it's a very cutesy kind of aesthetic, like it's almost like the Doki Doki Literature Club thing, where it's like, oh, this is really cute, and then it's like, we're gonna get super serious and talk about like putting souls into bodies and making weird zombie creatures. Like, it likes to jump tones very quickly, and there's something about that I really enjoy.
Interesting. Huh. I'm into it. I keep getting emails from Fangamer about they're selling it for the Switch, and it comes with the locket, the little music box locket from
cute.
Undertale. It's very charming.
Yeah, I did find myself listening to the theme music as well, so I think the music is really good. So I think you guys should give it a shot, and maybe we can talk about it on a later podcast, like do an Undertale spoiler cast, because I would love to know like your guys' thoughts on it.
Can we do the Undertale, so I know almost nothing about Undertale other than just, like, what I've seen people talk, so none of it means anything to me. If I streamed it, will you coach me?
Yeah, or do you like bullet hell games? Like, that's the one thing I was like, oh, my partner, maybe she could play it, but she isn't really an experienced, like, bullet hell player, and that's the part where I'm like, okay, this is kind of an impotent, like, this is keeping people from playing a very good game that shouldn't have to require this much skill, because to get the best ending, you have to play a really hard game.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. I don't know. I feel kind of lukewarm on bullet hells.
Well, I'll coach you through this. We can do it.
Okay.
Well, you could do, like, Enter the Gungeon would be probably a good, maybe it would be a good starter, but, like, it's literally just a fucking bullet hell. That's recent, I suppose.
We have to train for Undertale. We have to get
I don't
for
think
Undertale.
so. I feel like Undertale would be a lot more easier, I should say, than Enter the Gungeon, because Enter the Gungeon is literally just fucking everything. Anyway, yeah.
All right, that's all I got for DeltaRune, and I'll check back in when the second episode gets released, or however they're going to release additional episodes, because I feel like this is one of those ones we should keep an eye on. So I'm excited to see the future.
I'm interested to see what comes of it. I've only heard good things from people who really liked Undertale, and people were saying that it sets up a lot of interesting story, just like it ends on a really interesting note, so that people are really wanting the second episode to come out. So I'm interested to see where it goes.
Yeah, it goes places. It gets gross. I'm excited for it.
Well, it's similar to DeltaRune in the top-down, pixelated art. I was playing Minit. Which was just recently announced for a Video Game Award of the Year in the category of gameplay innovation and for best indie game. So hopefully this game wins. But I guess a little bit more about Minit. Minit is a very small game. I mean small being indie. Made by the devs are Vlambeer, which are two guys. Which is it's Jan Nijman, because I can't pronounce his name. And also it was Rami Ismail.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, that guy. Right. So there's those two people. Anyway, and the video game itself it's cute. It's two color schemes. It's black and it's white. And you essentially are just this little character who reminds me of Cuber a little bit, but not exactly. But he kind of looks like it. And you have the whole premise of the game is that you have 60 seconds to explore. And then once 60 seconds has passed, your character dies, and essentially you then respawn where you started from at like a house. And then you have another 60 seconds after that. Again, like the clock just keeps repeating itself, like Rebecca had said earlier. Groundhog Day is a good reference. It's a good explanation there because it's pretty much the same how it goes. But it's a very charming little game, I have to say. I technically haven't completed it, but I saw how it ends. I was literally at the ending. It has this puzzle that I couldn't wrap my head around quite all the way, and I didn't finish it. But I do know what happens. And regardless, it's just all about, like, it makes references to Zelda a little bit. It's a little bit like Undertale in a way where the writing is the little bit of writing or interaction that you get with the characters in the world. It's all kind of like inside jokes, or it's just a little witty. For example, like there's a turtle character who gives you a location of a treasure, but because he's a turtle and he's old, he talks really slow. So the way that you interact with characters or they talk to you is, a little chat bubble will appear, and like it'll be like a typewriter, like they're typing to you in real time. Well, this old ass turtle types like one letter every 3 seconds, and like you have to. It's not that slow, but it's slower. It's much slower than everyone else, and you have to like literally sacrifice 30 seconds of your time to hear his full message, and it takes about 30 seconds to get to where he is. So like you have to get to him and hear the whole message, and then you know where to go to get this treasure or whatever. And I don't know, it's interesting because introducing a time restraint of 60 seconds makes things really interesting in more ways than one. Because you figure having that limitation and dying all the time might be frustrating, but it's actually really refreshing. There have actually been times where you can actually terminate earlier than 60 seconds. Like if you for whatever reason need to just kill yourself again and respawn and try over again because you're like, I'm not going to make it to wherever I need to go in time. And it's just an interesting mechanic to play with that I've never experienced really with other video games.
Is there combat in the game? Like, what's the actual moment
combat? So there is combat. You pick up a sword, which is cursed, which I probably should have started saying. You're not cursed. You don't have that 60-second limitation at first. Not until you pick up this sword. And once you pick up the sword, it curses you, and then you die every 60 seconds. But you have a sword, and basically it's literally it's so simple. You just press a button, and you slash your sword to the right, to the left, or up or down. All 4 directions. You can't do diagonals because it's not a 8-dimensional thing. It's just the left, right, up and down. And then you do there's a few other mechanics where you can with the sword you can start throwing it. But the game is pretty much there's not a lot of combat involved, honestly. You have to kill a few things, but there's no bosses, or at least there's only one boss in the entire game, and he's at the very end. Actually, that's not true. There are, as far as I'm aware, there are at least 2 bosses because I did do a small, I don't call it a boss, but it is a boss, a small boss to be able to throw the sword. I don't want to talk about this game too much I don't want to spoil it because like Undertale and maybe DeltaRune, the less you know, the more you'll enjoy. But this game, it's really well done, even in terms of its art style, its mechanics, and just playing around with 60 seconds, and planning for 60 seconds as a player, what you have to do. I was very focused. I've never been this focused during a game because every second counts and you have to keep going or know what you're doing. You can't just sit around and hang out. At no point does the game really invite you to stick around a certain place.
Have you played Zelda Link's Awakening on the Game Boy Color?
So no, but the game is pretty similar, I would say, to the older Zeldas. It's kind of a harken back to that era of gameplay, but again with the limitation of 60 seconds.
But one of the things that I watched a quick video on this game, one of the things I noticed was in Zelda Link's Awakening, when you the way the save system works is if you turn the game off, it'll bring you back to wherever the last doorway you walk through. So it's you go in a house and you leave, and that's where you respawn. I think this game has a similar feature. Is that correct?
So yes, it's similar. Your respawn point, it does move. You start off in a house, which is in a grassy field, plain area, in the woods, basically. And then there's a desert house, and then there is a hotel that you end up going to. And so your place changes, and then eventually, and then there's an island too, I should say. And so you can't necessarily warp between each starting respawn point, but you can travel to them easily, I will say. There is a mechanic that you will unlock that you can actually teleport to these respawn points. And then from there, you can access, different parts of the world because you can't get across the world in 60 seconds. There's no way. Not unless you're like a speedrunner and you can somehow break the game.
So I know that you said that you really liked the kind of main mechanic of it. The 60 seconds is all you get. Was there ever a time when you felt like it was more frustrating than it was focusing? You know what I mean? Like I think that's been the one thing that maybe has stopped me from buying it, is the fact that I feel like, I don't know, it just seems like a wall that you might hit at some point.
So I never felt like 60 seconds was either too short or too long. They somehow, I'm serious when I'm saying like they really put a lot of thought and effort into balancing this game around 60 seconds. You can get to wherever you need to go within 60 seconds. There are times where, this game is pretty much just one big puzzle piece that kind of unfolds out on itself the more you explore and the more you're able to do things. And so in that sense, that reference again, that turtle guy, if you discover him and you only have 20 seconds left or 10 seconds left, there's no way that you can get his entire message. You'll start to see you'll get 2/3 of it or something, or 1/3 of it, but then you'll die. And so maybe that might be frustrating because you found him and you might want to hear everything he has to say, but then you have to be and then you die and respawn and you're like, well, now I have to go run over back to him. So maybe in that sense it might be a little annoying, but it's never, I'm always discovering new things within that 60 second to keep me entertained, to where I'm like, oh god, okay, 60 seconds is up, I gotta run back to my spot to go see how to solve this puzzle or whatever. And so it wasn't, I never felt like, man, this 60 seconds respawn thing sucks. Or the opposite of that, I've never felt like, man, this time is too much, I'm just getting all these things done. It definitely kept you on the edge of your seat every time that you ventured out into the world, just because, you're exploring. So it's pretty unique in that way.
Do you have an idea about how long the game itself is?
So, like I said, I can look real quick how long I've played the game. I'm at the end. I've played for 82 minutes. So.
Oh wow, it's a zippy little thing, isn't it?
Yeah. It's not very long. You probably 2 to 3 hours, maybe. If 3 hours max. I don't know, because you think about this. You have a minute, so literally I've died 82 times in this game. And so, that's what it is. I've seen people do it with I think around 80 deaths is the average probably. I've seen people do it with 55 or whatever. So your mileage depends, right? Depending on what you know already about the world. And where things are. I didn't even finish discovering there's a temple that I didn't finish kind of exploring or figuring out what exactly this temple does. And there was also a haunted house that I didn't exactly figure out what does either, because it's kind of like a maze.
So there are additional secrets in the world.
There are
additional. My concern is what can happen after maybe you finish the main story.
Well, so even if you finish the main story, well, I guess I should say what happens when you do finish the main story is you're no longer cursed. So you don't have that 60-second, death thing. Now, I don't know if you're just not cursed anymore and you can't, or you can still play the game and go out into the world and do things. I'm pretty sure the game pretty much just ends. You're not cursed anymore, and there might be a little bit of a cutscene at the end. I don't want to spoil anything. But then the game either you're able to go out and do that, or the game restarts, or it's a new game plus is what I think you can go into, or just play it again normally. But the new game plus mode decrease is really hard. I looked into it. You have 40 seconds to live.
Oh, gosh.
Oh boy.
Your sword is less effective towards the enemies, because in this game, when you hit someone with your sword, they pretty much die. There are very few enemies within the game where you have to hit them twice or more than once for them to die. because it's the sword is it's a cursed sword. It's supposed to be OP, so like everything you touch with it pretty much dies. There are a few exceptions to it, but for the most part, that's what happens. And I forget
the art style for this game is like it's like a two-tone game, like it's black and white.
Black and white. That's it. That's the only thing. Or the only color scheme. I mean, I think there might be a little variation. There might be a little more gray to it, and a few things just to make things a little soft. But for the most part, everything is black and white. And for just having those two, that color palette, I should say, they get pretty detailed with things. Like there's scorpions in there, and snakes, and ghosts, and like people with swimming gear, and I don't know. There's a lot of like little things and like tentacles. Of course, there's tentacles, but it's a fun little game. And it's very well put together. And I definitely want to finish it on my own just to see if like the curse doesn't stick to you permanently, and like you can go out and explore and finish all this unfinished business that you had, or if it just restarts and you have to play again. But yeah, it's a very interesting game. And then I think there is a different ending too, because you can play as the secondary character, I guess, called Mary. I haven't done this obviously, so I don't know what that's about, but it's the same concept of you'll have 60 seconds to explore and solve puzzles again, and then get a second ending, alternate ending to it. So I'm very surprised that this less than an hour game has this much to offer. It definitely itches that scratch I have that Blendo games scratches for me. So I think you guys would really enjoy it, and that you should definitely invest in it at some point in time. I think if it ever comes out, I think it is on the Switch, isn't it now?
Yeah, it is. It's out.
I think the Switch would be amazing because it's portable, and it's so easy to just jump in and jump out. It's a minute. So
I'm definitely at this point in my life where I actually get angry if something that I want to play on the Switch is not on the Switch. Is that bad?
I think we're all there. I was like thinking about picking up that Spyro redo, and I was like, I should probably have the Switch version because I would like to play that, but not in front of my TV.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I just want to be like, I don't really want to turn my computer on to play a Steam game. I don't really want to sit in my living room.
Right.
I just want to plop my butt into my bed and play something on my Switch.
Right.
So I'm glad Minit is there. That's nice.
Quick correction. I don't think this game is made by Vlambeer. I think it's kind of like a super group. It seems like half of Vlambeer, that Jan Willem.
Well, yeah. It's made by half of Vlambeer, which is Jan William Nijman. I'm butchering the names awfully. He's the guy who originally he's the guy behind this. But
okay, gotcha.
To say that he was the only person who had a hand in this is probably false. I'm sure obviously you had to have art direction. I don't think though that Rami really was in development with this.
Sure.
Yeah,
so.
I just wanted to make sure I said that. I guess there's a couple other people who are part of that group. So
right.
Just wanted to make sure I got that out before we finish.
Right. Thank you for the correction. So
worth mentioning too that this was one of the games that came up as being made without crunch.
Yes.
I know that thread started around when all of the reporting came out about Rockstar Games 100-hour work week stuff. So I know that this was touted as being a game made without crunch, and also I guess celebratory of your time. I think that was kind of the angle, was it's sort of about being aware of your time and taking care of the time that you have.
That's really cool.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's really neat. And I'm glad that it's got that message in there about hey, don't waste your time, which is important.
Yeah. Maybe, and I don't know, it seems to me almost like the perfect balance of a game if it's it's short, but it's enough to convey the point of its mechanic, but not enough for it to be okay, I've had enough.
Right. I'd never at any point felt man, I'm really bored with this game, or I'm frustrated beyond belief. The only reason why I didn't finish it because I did get stuck at a puzzle that I couldn't figure out. I knew I was starting to figure it out, and I kind of knew what I had to do, but I just didn't know how to do it exactly. But anyway, that was all. Like, I probably spent a good 12 to 20 minutes trying to figure this puzzle out. And the only part that sucks is, like, I have to run basically to that puzzle, and I'll have 45 seconds to try and figure it out or try something new for it to work, and obviously that's not quite a lot of time overall trying to figure this puzzle out. And it just kind of made, at that point, maybe then it did kind of stink having to run back and respawning, but it wasn't, there was a saves point close enough to where it wasn't a huge deal, and like I said, I had about 45 seconds when I actually got to where I needed to go to play around and figure the puzzle out. Awesome. And last thought, there's a dog, and yeah, you can pet him. So
I mean, that's the Tyler barometer of goodness. I mean, that's it's not the Bechdel test anymore. It's the Tyler test, and it involves dogs.
Yeah, can pet? Yes, no.
Yes.
No pet. Don't. Talk
and
to
you can give him a bone, so it's all good.
No.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Even better.
Rebecca, have you joined a cult recently?
I did join a cult. I founded the cult. I'm the cult leader. I am the cultist, you may say. Speaking of games that were made without crunch, I've been playing Cultist Simulator. That also was one of the ones sort of touted as like, hey, we made this on our own time when it was fun. So Cultist Simulator came out a little earlier this year. I want to say it was maybe April or so. It's made by Weather Factory, which is Alexis Kennedy, who you maybe know. He did the Fallen London and Sunless Sea stuff. He split from Fail Better, so I think they're making Sunless Skies. And then he, with his partner Lottie Bevan, they got together to make Cultist Simulator as sort of like a fun little indie game. Yes, this is a card game about building your cult, or a cult. The occult, perhaps. I should preface this by saying that I know I've talked about this with you guys before, and if we release any of our old episodes, like if those come out of the vault, I believe I talked about it then as well. But I am still really obsessed with this game because I think it's just a beautifully designed experience. So the point of Cult Simulator, obviously, is to build a cult, and sort of more than that, to seek some kind of higher knowledge. So it comes a little bit out of the tradition of Lovecraft. I mean, I had to kind of reassess how I felt about it after one of the more recent Waypoint episodes where they talk about the new Call of Cthulhu video game. They talk a lot about, the moral implications of liking Lovecraft's themes, especially since he was like a terrible garbage person. And, how do you kind of come to terms with liking something that was made from the perspective of being very like racist and sexist and, classist and like all the terrible ists that you can be. So Cultist Simulator comes a little bit from that tradition, not in the same sense that it's like, I open my Necronomicon and I summon Cthulhu Fatagan or whatever. It's not like that at all. It's more of the perspective of like, there is greater shit happening in the universe than we mere mortals are able to comprehend. And so, by dreaming on fragments of lore and by like dreaming on your beliefs and your passions, you can kind of sort of open your inner eye and see the true enlightenment within the universe. And then you can get into like really down and dirty stuff like summoning stuff and, executing your followers and doing some rituals and all that great stuff.
Is there actually a cultness? Like, do you actually get to like commune with higher powers or like summon demons or whatever?
So yes, it's very interesting the way that it does this. So there's no tutorial. It's meant to be very obtuse when you play it. It kind of teaches you to play it a little bit, and you learn a lot through trial and error. But essentially, you are playing this game as if you were sort of divining tarot cards. You start out by having a job, and you start out by having things like health and money and passion and reason. And you use these cards to sort of power up the timers on like studying something or dreaming or your profession, or exploration or knowledge or whatever. And you use these to like kind of put down and get certain effects out of doing so. So like, dreaming on your health might allow you to like take a nap, and you get some additional health benefits which you could use to, you know, get more health, or, you know, you can use your reason to get like a well-paying desk job that sucks your soul but brings in money. And you have to balance a lot of like your need to commune with the beyond with your need to have like a steady income, with, you know, people start to take notice if people start disappearing or bodies start showing up, you know, with your own like increasing levels of dread as you're starting to like make contact with things that are scary and kind of beyond your understanding. So it's a lot of timers, and it's a lot of like doing your own very ritualistic card spread. So you can kind of, it just gives you a table, and you can kind of spread your cards out as you go, and you use them to just work through these issues of like, you know, kind of step by step getting your money, then starting to buy lore books, then reading the books and getting the rituals, and then, you know, getting a follower, and then founding your first cult, and then, you know, deciding what your like main ambitions are and what you really want to reach at sort of the end of your journey through Mansis.
So
you get a cult dog.
No, there's no cult
Sorry,
dog.
Tyler.
Oh
Can't
man.
play this one.
Well, move on to the next game.
This is 2 thumbs down on the Tyler seal of disapproval.
No, I was gonna.
No dogs.
I was gonna ask. So, what are the win states of this game? Like, is it to run a successful company, or is it to like have the most money, or have the biggest cult, or?
So this is what I think is really interesting about it. There's a lot of different end states. Not all of them are necessarily a win. To give you an example, you know, the first couple times that I played it, I was really confused. And so you amount dread pretty quickly, and dread will turn into despair. And if, you know, you let your despair build up, you sort of lose yourself to madness. That's a very easy way to die pretty quickly. The other one would be you can get sick, or you can get injured on the job if your chosen profession is manual labor, and if you don't have enough like health as a resource, then you'll die. And so I was dying a lot by those kinds of 2 things, and it was usually just like hey, you worked yourself to death, or, you know, you got really sick. Oops, maybe don't do that next time. Or, hey, you know, the void is crushing, and maybe don't fall to the void, because you can take opium to counteract it. Brings about contentment, and you can use contentment to fight dread. Anyway,
I see.
So those are end states. They're not really lose states, I guess. But then it kind of goes up from there. So, like, I remember once I learned that, you know, I'm going to actually like really go at this desk job because I really want to make sure I have money. And I was just like not really reading. I was just kind of putting cards down, like just in a rote fashion, because I had gotten kind of into the flow. And at some point I had stopped sacrificing my reason and started sacrificing my passion. And then I got an end state that was just like, well, you just got comfortable at your job. It's not really losing. You just, you know, you were like, whatever, occult. I have this nice job and it's fine. The end.
That's so good.
So I think they consider that like a minor victory, because you can actually like rise levels in that organization and then like own it. And then you can use that to like rouse suspicion off yourself or whatever. But there are greater victories, not necessarily about like how much money you get or how many cult followers you have, but sort of the state of enlightenment that you reach. So one of the major plot threads is this concept of Mansis, which is and I don't know, it made me think a lot of Amnesia Machine for Pigs, if either of you played it or,
yes.
or familiar with
Yes.
it. But there's this sort of, I don't know, supernatural concept of Mansis with these series of doors, and this is a place that you can only reach when you dream. And so you get the option to dream on a like the beginning door, and if you kind of put in the right lore and you give it sort of the right pieces of yourself, you reach another level of enlightenment. And then you can sort of move up the chain of enlightenment until, you know, your win states are like becoming immortal, or, you know, getting all of the knowledge that ever there was in the world. And a lot of that will depend on what your kind of initial leanings are when you're starting your cult. Like, you know, what is your main desire? What are your temptations? Things like that.
That's really interesting. What you just said about obtaining levels of enlightenment is kind of reflective of the Church of Scientology. I don't know if you know much about Church of Scientology, but...
No, not really.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess...
Would you consider Scientology to be Lovecraftian?
Well, Who knows? So I don't know. You might, because Ron Hubbard has some very interesting ideas about the afterlife. But just like not to get into deep into Scientology, they have in their religion, quotation marks, they have a chart, and it's basically like you just described. You know, you have to pay or do certain things in order to move up into this chart and gain enlightenment. And there are many, many, many levels of this chart, or of enlightenment on this chart, to a point where upper echelon members in Scientology supposedly gain superpowers. And it's interesting. But anyway, so that's interesting. So even though you have a cult, your enlightenment into the Eldritch world is interesting.
Yes. So it's definitely a cult, not in the 1970s sense, but in the, this is kind of a vague period of time that seems vaguely Victorian, maybe Edwardian. It's a lot about what's in ancient texts. There's some shady characters. There's
this is
benefactors, Illuminati. And a little bit like that. I don't know. I mean, I think that's the part about it, that it's kind of Bloodborne. If it was if Bloodborne was a real timeline, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's like that, very much like that. Yeah, it's fascinating. There's I want to say 8 different cults that you can found with a bunch of different ideals for each, and they have kind of pros and cons to playing each one. And some are easier because they give you certain perks that allow you to avoid suspicion, where others are a little bit more difficult, but it's sort of a risk reward kind of situation. So,
well, tell me about these cults. What were which cult did you run? And if you ran any others, what were the differences, or what were maybe your favorites, or one that you might have admired?
This is difficult to say because a lot of this involves a lot of lingo that probably is not going to make a lot of sense.
Well, that's okay. Do your best.
what I can tell you is that, oh goodness, I'm trying to think. I think it's the Unrelenting Forge. I want to say it's the Unrelenting Forge. That is a really good cult. It's a really standard cult. It privileges a certain kind of knowledge that you need to do expeditions that require, I don't know. I don't even know how to put it. I think so. One of the issues about the game is the learning curve is extremely steep, because it's just to get from point A to point B. Sometimes it's how, why, dreaming on the doors. It won't really tell you how to get to the next door. So you have to do a lot of playing around to figure out what combination of things do I have to feed this card in order for it to give me the next level. So some of that stuff is kind of clunky. There's obviously a ton of resources online, which is nice. And so sometimes even I have to sit back and be I don't remember what this card is, or I don't remember what I'm supposed to do here. So that I would say is frustrating. But it is a game meant to be played very slowly.
Okay.
I made the mistake of trying to bum rush through it because I assumed since it was called Cultist Simulator that you're supposed to start your cult immediately. Yeah, maybe do not do that. It's a lot about building up yourself, doing a lot of self-reflection, building up your knowledge, building up your passion and your reason and your health so that you have a good pool, and having a job and getting the money in, and then starting to kind of delve deeper into okay, get maybe all of the books, and then once you get the books, you can start to sort of walk the path of Mansis, and then you can start to bring in your followers and level them up and start doing some rituals and stuff. To really have a strong foundation and also avoid a lot of suspicion, because you can get people on your ass real fast if you start getting real freaky with cult stuff.
How challenging is it to manage the different timers? How complex can it get in terms of the different timers and managing resources and all that?
Not too difficult. The one thing that's very nice is that you can pause it at any time. If you spacebar, you can pause. So when your time, you get a timer that finishes, say your job timer finishes, you can pause the game, open the card, and then you'll get cards back. You'll get the job back so that you can restart the job over again. You'll get your reason card back, which will be timed out because you used your reason to do your job last time. So you'll need to like put another reason card on it. You'll get your money cards, and then you can just sort of start the timer up again. And so usually that's a lot of like, I wait for the timers to run out, I stop everything, I like collect everything, make some new decisions, hit play, let it run. You know, it's very easy to manage. The only thing that will become difficult is that there are certain like status cards that will just magnetize cards off the board. So this is why dread can be really problematic, because there is a dread timer that kind of comes and goes. So sometimes you'll get a dread card that just times out on its own and it doesn't cause you any issues. But sometimes it'll, like, your despair timer will show up and it'll start to suck despair cards off the table. And if you get 3 despair cards, you've reached like the pits of despair and there's no hope for you. So you have to be very careful about what is getting sucked off the board at any given time. But since you can pause it at any time, you're always kind of aware. And I think the game is really well balanced in terms of timers, where certain things will take 30 seconds, certain things take a minute, but nothing takes like an extreme amount of time. You know, cards that you'll need usually have a slow decay or they don't decay at all. It's pretty forgiving, I would say. And that's why I think it benefits to just be very careful, because once you set a card going, like once you start your job or you start putting cards down, you can't undo that action. You have to let the timer run. So that was how I made the mistake, for example, of getting complacent in my job because I wasn't paying attention and I wasn't reading like what cards I was putting down. So that was not a smart idea on my part.
Can you name your cult?
So no, you could just pick from the different kinds of cults that there are. I'm trying to think, because I know there's like the Society of Saint Hydra is one. The Unrelenting Forge is one of the other ones the one that I'm working on right now. Goodness, I know there's like the Way of the Moth or something, or like I don't know. I can't remember what all of them are.
In that one.
And all of these,
yeah, so
all of these cults, they're all trying to worship the same deity, correct? There's not like multiple deities in this game. It's the same.
Well, there's not really a deity.
Or like it's all this. So I'm sorry.
It's like an unknowable. Yeah. So they all are pretty much after the same thing. Okay. It's just that they approach things in a different way. So like using the Unrelenting Forge as an example, they are like the fire that will rewrite the world. You know what I mean? And like all of your rites and stuff that are involving are like, imagine this is a wound on the surface of the world and we are going to cleanse it with the fire. And so you get a lot of like forge points. And so forge points allows you to kind of, you know, bust down problems. I don't know. It's so hard to talk about because it's so like esoteric, you know what I mean? But it makes so much sense when you sit and play it. You're just like, oh yes, of course. And that's what I think is so brilliant about it, is that it's designed in the perfect way to be like unknowable and all-encompassing, the same way that you would think of a higher enlightenment kind of cult level to be like. And just the act of sort of divinating as you're going and playing the cards and reading your fates is just fascinating. And the soundtrack is beautiful also.
That sounds really cool.
It's something. I really recommend it. I think it's great. I think it's great at what it does. And they've been releasing free DLCs. So they just released the Dancer DLC a couple months ago, which adds new characters. You can romance your followers now because sure, why not? And I think it adds a new cult, a new type of cult that you can do, which is based on like exotic dancing, I guess. But in the like old-timey sense and not in the like stripper sense. If that makes sense.
So like belly dancers? I don't know what
maybe like that, like a show kind of a thing. You know what I mean?
Oh, like they're doing the
seedy
can
red
can.
light district in 1890.
That's funny.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's just a really well-designed game. So I definitely recommend it. It's great. Use the internet because you're going to need it. Although one thing that's neat is that the game expects you to die, obviously. And so some of the lose states that you get will actually open new cult beginnings.
Oh, really?
So you usually will just start with just the ability to do like manual labor, but you can unlock a tree that allows you to be a physician, one that allow you to be a detective. And so those will come with their own perks, and, you know, advantages and disadvantages on your playstyle. So
did you play Reigns?
Oh, no, I never have. There's a bunch of them now, though, aren't there?
There are a few. The mechanic, because it is it's like a Tinder card-based game, kind of.
Really?
Yeah, it's very fun. It's a little confusing. Like, I've played it multiple times and still haven't beaten it. but the idea of like, oh, your character died, but because of that, you also got new card options to play with is also in that game.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it reminds me of that just because like you're kind of managing different opportunities. So it sounds like that might also be up your alley.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. I'm really interested. But yeah, if you like cult stuff, you should check out Cultist Simulator. Is it time for some salutations?
It is. Do you want to give a quick breakdown of what salutations are?
Yes. So, okay. We originally, in some of our older episodes, sort of the ones before they went to release, we're obviously big fans of Important If True, and they do their recommendations sort of at the end where they, talk about stuff that they are just think is great, whether it's a piece of media or a shoehorn or whatever. Lots of stuff worth talking about and saying how great it is. And so we want to bring it back video game style with our salutations, where we can share, the gaming media, the articles, the games, the whatever it is that's really making our week super great. Mine's Florence. Did you guys play Florence?
No.
I downloaded it. I have not put it on I have not opened it yet.
So Florence is also up for some awards at the Game Awards this year. Maybe one or two. And Florence is an Annapurna published game. I'm trying to think. I believe it was made by Mountains. They're an Australian gaming studio. And it's just this really cute, short, sweet little game for the mobile. So it's, I don't know, I want to say it's maybe an hour. It's more like an interactive comic than it is a game. But it sort of, tells a story of what it's like to fall in and out of love, and kind of what happens to people every part of that process. And I was really happy to see the choices that it made in delivering that story. It was not what I was expecting, but it's what I needed, I felt like. And so it's a really lovely little piece of media that, if you ever get a chance to play it, it's like $3.99 on iOS, and it'll take you maybe an hour or two. Play it with headphones. It's really, really sublime. Really lovely.
It's not on Android. It's just on the iOS.
It is on Android.
Yeah.
I bought
Okay.
it. It was like, I think it was like $2 on Android or something really cheap like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really nice. I want to say it's up for Games for Change this year, I think. And I think it's up for maybe mobile or best indie debut. I'm not 100% sure. But it's definitely up for some stuff. And it's great. And it's absolutely worth your time. So please play Florence. Olivia, what's your salutations?
So my salutation for this week is Netrunner, Android Netrunner, the card game.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I bought Terminal Directive, which is an expansion for Netrunner that's a campaign-themed expansion. Like, there's a story to it. And I didn't really realize that you needed the original set. Stupidly, I overlooked the content that's the little, thing that said, you need the base set to play this game. So it's actually getting discontinued.
I was going to say,
oh my gosh,
isn't
really?
it done? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they're putting out any new content, but they're still making, okay, just to give a little bit of explanation on what this game is. Compared to a Magic the Gathering, which is you have random card packs that you open, Netrunner is a set-based card game, living card game. I'm not sure what their official, what they call it, but it's not a CCG. It's an LCG or something like that, living card game. And they release certain packs that are predetermined. So it's oh, here's our X pack for January, and it's you will get all of the cards if you spend the $20 to buy that pack. So instead of having random booster packs, you're always going to have the cards that everyone else will have if you buy all the packs. So
Interesting.
Yeah, it's designed to be a little, I think, in my opinion, it's designed to be a little less abusive than the Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
I've talked to some friends who are really into CCGs, and they've said hey, because of how many packs they release for Netrunner, you're still investing quite a bit of money to keep up with it. But if you buy the base pack, I got it for $40. You get 2 decks in there that you can kind of play around with and make a deck. There's some extra cards in there that you can kind of play with and make a full deck. And so me and my partner have been playing a little bit of Netrunner, and I've really been enjoying it. It's a really fun kind of God, what's the book? Gosh, I'm forgetting it now. God, I'm so sorry. It's that cyberpunk. It's just got a really cool cyberpunk aesthetic that I'm really enjoying, and it seems like it's kind of that Gibson era novel. God, what is it called? Neuromancer. Sorry, just
okay.
Kind of
all I'm thinking of is Dune. I'm that's wrong.
Yeah, it's kind of pulling from the Neuromancer lexicon stuff. Instead of having an antivirus, you have ice that you're throwing down to block daemons from getting into your like secure thing, which I love that like kind of shit, and I would really recommend it. And I'm really excited to try out the Terminal Directive expansion because I've heard nothing but great things about it.
Cool. Yeah. It's a good week for card games, apparently.
What about you, Tyler?
Well, I'm doing something a little different other than, I know you two got your games and this is a video game podcast, but I've been watching a lot of Netflix. So...
Are you recommending Netflix to us? Is that what you're recommending?
No. Netflix, yes, please watch Netflix.
Have y'all ever heard of this thing called Netflix?
Netflix.com and like create an account. It'll ask for your card number to pay because it's a monthly subscription. No. So on Netflix, I have been watching a plethora of TV shows. Most recently, She-Ra, but I recommend that. But my salutation this week though is going to be Hilda because I feel like it's not getting enough recognition.
Oh, I loved Hilda.
Yeah, Hilda is so amazing. It's just a little animated cartoon show. I mean, so it's cartoon, but I really hesitate using the cartoon like descriptor. It's just an animated TV show, and it follows this little girl around, and it's set in kind of a fantasy world, similar to Adventure Time, but I feel like this is a little bit more adult oriented than Adventure Time. I mean, it's not like adult, like it's PG-13 or anything like that, but it's just more, it's less silly in that sense. It takes itself a little bit more seriously than Adventure Time, if you've ever seen that. But it basically is just about this girl and her misadventures in this fantasy world. And it's basically set in our world, or like in, there are humans and we have society, but also there are mystical, magical beings in it. And it's a very cute and very uplifting series. It's only like 10 episodes long or something. And each episode is only 30 minutes long. So it's pretty easy to digest all at once, but it's very cute. And it definitely like relieved me of like stress and like depression. Not that it cured anything, but like, it definitely like, was relaxing and pleasant and very positive. Healed. Yeah.
My son, you have been healed. Bye,
so
Hilda.
that's my salutation this week is to watch Hilda. To take a chance on it. It's very positive, and just brilliantly done. So.
I actually thought you were going to sneak attack us and tell us to watch the Castlevania anime.
Okay, that's all on my list. Everyone should watch that too. Like, don't be like, let's be real. That shit is amazing. I watched the second season and it's the animation in there is just, mwah. I can't like I follow right? I follow a bunch of the artists who work on Castlevania, and they post like process videos of them creating the animation in the series, and it's just all so fucking gorgeous. Like, I wish that I had the patience to be an animator. I cannot draw the same frame over just a little bit different every time for 600 times. Like, for 5 seconds of film, like that's outrageous. But yeah, it's a good show if you want to watch that too, I suppose. I'll do 2 salutations. Or 3 if you count She-Ra, which is also really good, but I haven't finished it, so I really can't like say, whether or not. Anyway, enjoying it so far. So that's my salutation.
Nice.
We should probably also mention, I know a few people have asked me about Red Dead Redemption and when we're going to cover that, but
oh yeah,
listen, y'all, it's a huge game. We want to make sure that the people who were overworked at Rockstar are given their credit, and so we're going to spend as much time as we possibly can with it to make sure that we explore every avenue and every side quest and stumble upon all the random encounters. Plus, we're adults with either partners or dogs or jobs and whatnot. We don't have a lot of time to spare, so playing this game that's like literally almost probably 200 hours, we are just taking our time with it. Probably won't have any discussion about it until maybe after Thanksgiving. I think we're going to be doing a standalone episode of it though, right? We're just going to have one episode where we talk about it Is that what we agreed on?
I think that was the game plan.
Okay.
And I totally spaced that we have Thanksgiving coming up next week, so hopefully we'll get some time to dive in.
Cool.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we don't really have like a name for it. We did in our past episode, if we ever release it, we did a standalone episode of God of War, where we just talked about God of War. So we'll do the same thing for Red Dead Redemption 2. Just thank you for your patience. And happy Thanksgiving or holiday that you may be participating in next week, if you're not American, or if you are American and you just don't do Thanksgiving, you do something else. It's all about family and getting together. So hopefully that isn't too stressful for you. Just drink a lot of wine or beer, alcohol in general, and that'll help things.
Just put some food in the old pie hole and call it a day.
That's it. Show up for the food and then leave. That's what I do.
That's a good final word for the podcast. Just eat some food.
Just eat food.
Just show up for the food and then leave.
Yo, fuck Jigglypuff.
Oh, fuck Mr. Mime.
And that's what we
end. All right. Well, that was a podcast. We're available everywhere that podcasts are sold for free, including Apple, Spotify, Google Play, and then all those other ones that I'm not familiar with because I'm not very cool and I stream everything on my iPhone. We also are available online at greetingsfrom.zone, the zone where the greetings from are happening. My name is Rebecca Faye. You can find me online at Rebecca Faye. Olivia, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at LiveJQ.
Tyler.
They can find me at World Jumpin' on Twitter.
Fuck Mr. Mime. Bye.